Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. And now let's get to the newspapers this morning. Share with you what the major stories are making headlines across Nigeria. We're going to be kicking off on the Daily Trust newspapers this morning. It says there, 3 days to deadline. Federal government yet to recover anchor borrower loans from farmers. Yes, I remember
the story
a few weeks ago. Yes, the government did come with, orders, and of course, I think they also mandated the DSS to step in to some of these
and arrest
banks.
them. And our question was, when they arrest them, what next?
Yeah, what next? But not even just the individuals, also the banks that gave out the loans. There were some of them were also accused of fraud. So yes, but for me, the big question would be, did the Nigerian government expect that they were going to get these monies back? I'm sure they knew that they weren't going to get it back. Were these loans criticized when they were given out? Also there was a little bit of criticism, as to if this could have been done better or done different. Are there reasons why these things were obviously not going to work because of the security situation across the country and other economic factors that made business or doing business in Nigeria really, really hard? And so it was almost impossible to expect that these people would pay back. These for me are the big, aspects of it. And then also, what next? Are we going to write this off as a bad debt? Or, what happens to future programs like this that the government may want to, put in place to support small-scale businesses and agriculture? We'll see. In Borno State, Zulum, 77 projects in 100 days of second term in Borno State. All right. Some key decisions, construction, releases and procurements in 100 days. It released 2 billion naira for disbursement as non-interest loans to civil servants. That's interesting. Doubling of gratuities payment from 1.2 billion annually to 2.4 billion. Anyway, this is just, the whole of the Daily Trust basically is sponsored this morning, I believe, by Governor Zulum of Borno State, stating the things that he has achieved
in
his second term.
That's seven really projects in 100 days.
That's really what it is.
Yeah.
But of course, we'd like to see how Borno turns out because he's been there for 4 years. So we'd like to see what the Borno, is like after 8 years. It doesn't necessarily have to be 8 years, but, is Borno a choice destination for business or tourism or healthcare or education?
You're overreaching. Borno, let's talk about Nigeria first.
I mean, well, and of course, what's the Human Development Index in Borno State? Because these things, are important to measure, when we're talking about government projects. But these are the major stories on the Daily Trust this morning. Let's go to this Nigeria newspapers.
Yep, still staying within the country. Bandits kill 4, abduct 18 in Sokoto village. A very unfortunate story there. But the good news is troops, I shouldn't be saying good news, but it is what it is. Troops kill 151 terrorists and destroy 89 illegal refining sites. I don't know how I feel about the destruction of the illegal refining sites, people who are in that sector will tell you differently about how government should find a way to work with these, so-called illegal refining sites to ensure that we have some form of balance in the oil sector. We will continue to have theft, we'll continue to have spillage, we'll continue to have a lot of the troubles we're having if they don't find a way to regularize the irregular ones.
Yeah, but it also depends on what refining we're talking about, because we're talking 151 terrorists. This is not in the Niger Delta, I believe.
No,
this will likely be in northern Nigeria. And so what refining sites exactly we're talking about?
I don't have the full details of the story. I'm sure when we look at we can see that. WFP to spend $2.5 billion to fight hunger in Nigeria. Oof. Fix East-West Road, Fubara pleads with Tinubu. Leads 62-man Rivers delegation on a thank you visit for FCT Minister Wike's appointment. I don't understand this. Osarogie. So they have led a 62-man Rivers delegation to go and on a thank you visit for the FCT minister. So they've gone to thank the president, and they took 62 men to go and thank the president for nominating the minister.
Again, Nigeria has a spending problem, not a revenue problem. Our problem, is not, and of course, there's the psychophancy part, there's
a lot of it.
Of course, the politics for interest part, but one part that we wouldn't pay attention to is the fact that we spend money recklessly. I remember,
whose money is going to fund the 62 people that flew
River State government there? In the early days of the oil boom in Nigeria, I remember, I'm not sure which of Nigeria's, presidents or so was telling, the UK or the British government that Nigeria doesn't, money is not the problem. That's what he said. It's a
how
very
to
popular
spend
name.
it.
It's how
If
to
you
spend
spending
it.
yeah.
Exactly.
A famous philosopher said, did say that about Nigeria. He said so much money, the problem is how to spend it.
Yes, I remember that philosopher.
Yeah, I want to believe it's the only maintain.
Yes.
Something like that. But that's how they live, loud spending.
But
when you know that his taxpayers' money you're using to fly 62 people.
The point I was trying to make is we have a spending problem in Nigeria where money is used recklessly. State government funds are used recklessly without any auditing or without any checks and balances. And these are used for personal projects and for things that really should not cost the state, but that's the reality of us being in Nigeria and how state governments basically function, and how Nigeria's money goes to waste. That's really what it is.
Very sad.
But yeah.
And a lot of eye service. President, Minister, a dependable performing ally. Tinubu sacks FIRS boss Namji, appoints Adedeji as new chairman. Grid collapse. TCN restores power supply in parts of Nigeria. I hope to meet light when I go back to my house. If not, Air Peace acquires 10 Embraer E175 fleets at $300 million. I think that's all that we could take this morning on this Nigerian newspaper. Let's head to The Nation.
Yeah, all right. The Nation newspapers this morning: Defense Headquarters, police turn hit on oil thieves and economic saboteurs. It says there 1 million liters of stolen crude seized in 1 week. IG orders clamp down on firearms production. We as Nigerians would support whatever it is that the government needs to do to end the stealing of Nigeria's crude and Nigeria's Commonwealth. Whatever it takes, whoever's ox needs to be gored, whoever's fingers need to be burnt, whoever's business needs to be shut down. Nigerians across the country would 100% stand behind whatever move the government needs to make, legal moves the government needs to make to end the stealing of Nigeria's crude, to increase Nigeria's oil production, to be able to make the best use of Nigeria's crude oil to earn more revenue for the country. For many, many years, decades, I would argue, maybe even more than decades, crude oil has been stolen from Nigeria and loaded onto ships and taken to different countries across the world, here in Africa and in different other parts of the world, and sold off, where, of course, the Nigerian government doesn't get to make the money that it should make from its crude. So these are some of the things, when we're talking about cleaning up of the NNPC and cleaning up of Nigeria's oil and gas sector, these are some of the things. And of course, it's not just some criminal gang. It also works along with those who are meant to be checking and monitoring Nigeria's waterways, the corruption in the system, those who, of course, who have been given contracts to ensure that Nigeria's oil pipelines are safe. All of these things need to be looked, into, a lot deeper. Also on The Nation this morning, Tinubu says we will create wealth for all Nigerians. All right. Ajulo, Falana's wife,
exactly.
Afe Babalola's daughter, and others make SANS list. Congratulations to them. Makinde appoints 29-year-old as commissioner. We won't allow one-party rule, says the PDP. This is the same PDP that ruled Nigeria for 16 years and at some point was bragging that it is the biggest party in Africa and almost would have allowed itself run a one-party system if it was allowed. So I'm sure at some time it really was a one-party system here in Nigeria.
All right, let's quickly wrap up the final story this morning and see if I can take maybe one or two stories on the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, the News Direct, I believe, right? Okay, let's look at the Punch. On the Punch newspaper, Nigeria's debt jumps by 75%. In 3 months, hits 87 trillion naira. How CBN loans to federal government new debts promissory notes raise public debts by 37 trillion naira between April and June. We also have Tinubu promises to tackle poverty that was taken on another paper. Alake has provided qualitative leadership for Egba, according to Anglican primate. NURTW president, 21 others arrested for alleged killing. Zero allocation, Ogun local government chair impeached, lampoons Abiodun. Electricity consumers slam federal government over power grid collapses, as they should. Manufactured goods imports go up $6.7 billion in 6 months, according to report. And final story, Tinubu orders Nami's retirement, appoints Adedeji as FIRS chair. That's all that we can take this morning on the front pages of the paper. We'll go on a break. And when we come back, we'll be looking into our top stories